one, thanks for everybody being here. Two, let me just say that after the first signing date and trying to get a staff hired and doing all those things, we had a lot of needs over that time frame, bringing people in mid-year. Also trying, hiring a staff and then trying to identify who we lost, what we can do to try to bring some in, and we feel really good about the young men that we're able to bring in, especially the ones that were able to join us during the mid-year. This past signing day, we had some specific needs defensively that we really need to fill. Still got some more that we need to. We need to pick up probably an additional receiver and probably a couple offensive linemen, and so we'll continue to still work on that. Once transfer, this signing date's over now, but it opens back up in March. Obviously, then the portal starts back up, so we'll be in the market there to try to continue to build our roster. We didn't want to take some guys that might not have been quite good enough just to fill a spot. We tried to be very strategic. If we didn't think they were good enough to fit us, we didn't want to just take somebody to take somebody. And so really pleased with yesterday. We didn't have many that we signed, but the ones that we did were very big for us and able to fit some really needs, especially in the secondary and up front on the defensive line, trying to replenish there. Really excited about our young defensive lineman. We've got a junior college transfer, Brian Whitehead, and then Larry Jones out of Lakeland, Florida, who we think has got a chance to be really, really good and really, really special. A couple defensive backs, one from Coffeyville that has 3 years left, and then another one from California that also has 3 years left. So tried to get some guys that had a lot of time left, but also had some playing experience, and so really pleased with that. Overall, we had 17 signees that joined us in January, 17. And that's been big as far as adding to your team. You lose your seniors, then you lose some in the portal. And so sometimes there in the spring it can be slim pickings, not slim chickens. Don't get that confused there with on-campus dining. But and so we were able to get that many in, which has been big for us. They're obviously going through our off-season program right now and adding to the to talent that we already have here. We've got some good players in place. We lost obviously some good players to graduation, obviously to other institutions. But I do feel like we were able to get some Liberty people in here that we believe fit our culture, what we're about, that are able to go through spring and being able to fill these last. I think, what did we sign 4 yesterday? I think it was 4. Might have been 5. Can't think right now. But whatever we signed yesterday was a great piece for us, and then we're going to keep recruiting through May until we can try to fill those other positions that I said.
How much did defense become a focal point, just given the volume of players that left within the coaching staff?
Well, that was big, and then I kept a couple of defensive coaches, so they're here. We need more players, and they know their team a little bit better than you do right now. But with what we lost to graduation, to NFL opportunities, to the portal there was some big needs there that we really need to try to fill. And then also, you're trying to potentially fill. There's another portal, so we might lose some more guys after the spring. I'm not naive to that. And so we were trying to fill some spots where we might lose some people, or potentially lose some people also, to make sure that we already had somebody in place for that. And so as we identified, I think offensively we were able to hit a lot of the areas in the time frame from December 3rd with the scholarships we had left from the previous staff. Obviously try to hold on to as many commitments as you can. And then over the January window, we brought some offensive players in, 2 receivers, 3 running backs, offensive line. And so, but there's still some more needs there. But defensively, we really focused on trying to hey, who can we get guys that can come early, and I mean early January, and the ones that couldn't, did they have multiple years? Not just 2. We needed 3+ years, and that's what strategically wise that was our mindset, and we were able to answer all those. So hopefully they'll play well.
Being at Liberty, how much did being a mission fit here fit into the practice as far as filtering kids and that process, and how much do you anticipate that being a big part of it moving forward?
Well, I think that's got to be number one. You have to, who you are as an institution, who you are as a coaching staff, that's got to be what you prioritize. We got a lot of things that we can sell, but it doesn't matter if they're not a fit for what we're about and what we're trying to do. And so we're up front and with everything that we do about who we are, why we do it, what you're going to be a part of here, how we're going to develop you. I think every institution in the country is going to develop you, and mentally, physically, socially. We obviously get to add the spiritual aspect. We don't have to hide from it. We can be bold about it. And I think as a coach, our coaching staff's job is to help young people grow in all areas and help them become the man God's called them to be. And we're not shy about that. And I think a lot of the I know a lot of the players that decided to join us, that was something they wanted to be a part of. They wanted to grow in that aspect as well.
Getting a defensive lineman like Larry Jones, that gives you 4 high school defensive linemen that you signed. How big of an addition was he to be able to add some depth so that way you can maybe balance out the classes over the next 4 years?
Well, and that's what we're trying to do. Obviously, we had the 3, and all 3 of those high school guys that we signed, they came in early. And so, but what you're trying to, you can never have enough good defensive linemen, and we play multiple fronts. He was somebody that we identified that we thought obviously would fit what we're doing. Obviously had a previous relationship with him and his family, and they felt really good about Coach McGee, our defensive line coach, who was going to be coaching him, and the relationships that we'd already formed. But getting young defensive linemen, they're hard to find. Developing them, somebody like him that has a lot of upside, was big for us. And be able to do that and continue to build that. If you win consistency and long-term up front on both sides of the ball, and that's where we have to. I thought we did a really good job defensively on that. We signed 4 high school offensive linemen. We obviously got a portal, but we got a lot of need there we still got to go for.
You mentioned the value of the trenches. 11 of the 28 signees are offensive or defensive linemen. Is that a ratio and a number that you want to continue with, or is that more by necessity because of this particular class in this situation?
Well, obviously, it's where your scholarships fall. But as I said earlier, sometimes you're trying to identify as well. Maybe we sign 1 or 2 more, thinking that maybe we're losing somebody, or somebody has mentioned that they're looking around. So you got to try to plan for that a little bit. So that's part of it. And then offensively, what we're planning for right now is this coming year we lose 5 super seniors at offensive line. That's five offensive linemen in one class. That's not typical. And then, by the way, we also have 2 other spots that are available because we hadn't had them filled. So I'm looking at losing 7, potentially having 7 spots to sign 1 position. And so you want to do that next year. So that's why we're trying to continue to build that this year, so we offset that a little bit.
When you look at the receivers, Errol Rogers, Reese Smith, that you brought in, some veteran guys from West Virginia and Louisiana, respectively. What do you hope they bring to that wide receiver room?
Well, one, we don't have a lot of competition there right now, and so one, to bring some competition. I think 2, you need some people that have played, for conference championships and understand what that's like, played in some systems, and so it was big for us to get some of those guys, because if we didn't have them come in, we'd only had about 4 healthy guys really going through in spring. You can't obviously practice that way. So they've been a great addition. They've done a great job so far in our off-season training program, and we still need a younger person there. If you look at the depth chart there, we've really got 1 redshirt freshman, and everybody else is very old in that room, and so we've got to develop some younger guys. So that's an area that we, getting here late. You didn't really have anybody there in the December signing period from a young standpoint. That's why we went after the older guys. We needed some immediate help. And then here in January, we ID'd some receivers that were freshmen, didn't work out, or maybe we thought somebody else was better. And so we're still going to identify that going forward. But that's huge to have. Anytime you can get anybody in mid-year, but a position of need like that was big.
Your quarterback room, you had like Jonathan Bennett, Caden Salter, guys with starting experience, but bringing in a guy like Trey Lowe, who has 1, maybe 2 years of eligibility left. Was that
2.
just to create depth?
Competition. We played a lot of quarterbacks last year, so when you play a lot of quarterbacks, sometimes that tells me that, hey, we don't know who the guy is. And so for us, I want as much competition as possible, people that have played. We've obviously got a young quarterback coming in. It doesn't have an experience, and so I think anytime that you can bring in somebody that's played and has a chance to be a good player, and somebody that's been through the ringer a little bit, that breeds some competition, and that means those other quarterbacks have to raise up their game and be consistent. And so every day, and so we're trying to create some competition and see who we have and see what we're capable of there, we'll still look, to be honest with you.
You also brought in 2 running back transfers and a freshman that we talked about, Vaughn Blue, back in December. But was that another position of need you looked at when you kind of pervade the roster when you first got here?
100%. We hadn't signed a high school running back in 4 years. So it was all transfers. And so we have two seniors. Malik Caper's a senior. Day could have 2 years left, but he obviously has another good year. He's going to try to keep playing. And then Chadwell, who's really a receiver, we're going to try to play at receiver more than running back. So we didn't have a lot of depth there. And so it was important for us to try to bring in some more people. We obviously use, two running backs typically quite a bit. And so to bring 3 guys in, they're all here mid-year, was big. They'll be able to go through our system. Day's obviously hurt, so he's not going to be able to go through the spring, so we need to develop some depth between Malik and all those guys there, and just really trying to plan for the future as well, not just try to solely have to rely on the portal every year. You don't want to get into that game. It's not fun, to be honest with you. And so obviously you have to do it in certain areas to try to catch up or whatever, but we're trying to plan from a 2-year standpoint as well, looking at the roster and, hey, who are we going to lose in 2 years? How can we offset it right now and try not to make it as a big deal when it happens to us?
Similar at the tight end position, kind of remade that room a little bit. I think brought in 3 total guys this class.
I think it was 2, right? 2, right? I think it was 2. Might have been 3. I'd have to look.
Freshmen and 2 transfers.
Yeah, yes, okay, well, yes. And so, one, we needed a younger guy there, but also we do use quite a bit of 2 tight end sets. Like the guys that we've inherited, they've played some football. They're pass catchers in some of those, so try to bring in some true blockers and some of those things, different guys there. But again, planning from a long-term standpoint of who we want to become offensively, what do we need in there, and as we're trying to, obviously we want to win and hopefully win big right away, but planning for the future to set ourselves up to consistently compete for Conference USA championships.
Do you feel better in the safety room now after getting some depth?
Well, I don't know what they look like, so the coaches tell me they feel better, but we might get out there and I might go, holy moly, So, it was good to get some secondary help. That was one of the areas that we had identified, hey, we need some help there in the secondary. Obviously, defensive line, we're never going to pass up great defensive linemen and just projecting there, obviously, but it was very big. Really defensively, I feel really good about the haul we brought in. I'd like to get truthfully one linebacker if we could still out there. We'll still go after a linebacker. We had a couple that we were on, just didn't work out, and so we'll keep recruiting there.
You said you're still in for a linebacker, receiver, and what were the other?
Linebacker, receiver, and I mean, ideally I'd probably take a couple of O-linemen if I could get 2 O-linemen that have multiple years left. Try to help us build and come in and compete.
Marquise Bell's a corner. You just got in. I think he was on a visit this past week. What was it about him that stood out that made you guys want to kind of pursue him and offer him an opportunity here?
Well, one, he plays both positions there. He's a corner, but also can play some safety. So we really identified guys that could play multiple positions back there. And as we're, as our defense is headed and what we're trying to do with it back there and the things we want to do in the secondary, we need guys that are, for a better term, combo that can do a little bit of both. One, that. 2, he's 4 for 3, so he's got 3 years to play and a redshirt year, which was big. 3rd, he can come in mid-year and really compete, so he'll be here ready to rock and roll. And then 4thly, he's an unbelievable fit for us. Just once we identified him and got to know his family, who he is and what he's about, what his family's about. Mom's an actress, by the way, and so if you watch Lifetime, she's in some of those movies. And but just an unbelievable fit for us, and embrace what we're about and wanted to be a part of that, and anytime you get somebody that you feel has the talent to help you, but also the intangibles, the character that embraces the academics, that's a win-win, and so that was a really good, strong get for us.
Heading into spring, you had an overhaul with the roster, but you're also getting to know a lot of the new guys. What's spring going to look like for you here in year 1?
Well, we're doing our CPR classes right now. CPR for us is a coach-player relationship. So we're every week we're going through meeting with individual coaches, position-wise, and then coordinators are meeting with different people. I've met with everybody on the team. Just meeting with individuals, everybody getting to know them off the field, and then we're also doing that through our week of different people talking different weeks. So we're trying to develop relationships there. Once we I've been out in the weight room, able to see them do some things. Obviously, we're still, working, but here, now that we're done sort of with recruiting, we got an opportunity to spend some time, more time with them, watch them and do some things, and then to see what you have, and I know we're going to have a team that I believe will be hungry and play for each other. That's what we're working on. That's what we're trying to identify right now. Who are those guys? And if you're in their seat, they got something to prove too. Basically a completely new coaching staff in a lot of areas. So they're hungry to prove what they can do because they got to prove it to somebody else. So it'll be a great spring for us to sort of see what we've got. Obviously, got a lot of guys injured, from previous injuries that won't be going through. So there's going to be some question marks as well on certain guys that we won't know about until we get them in the summer and the fall. So, but I think we're March 8th, March 9th, somewhere around in there. Todd, I can't remember when we start spring, somewhere around there. And, we're looking forward to building to that point. Man, it's hot in here, isn't it? Is it always like this? My gosh.
Have you, kind of got an idea of how you want the spring game to look, quote unquote?
You know what, typically, and we'll see what we have healthy-wise and some of those things. Usually, it's more of like a 1-versus-1 type deal and a 2-versus-2, don't do a lot of special teams. In the past, I've done a draft and split teams up sometimes, and sometimes I've made it more like a practice. I think I'll decide once we're through spring and sort of see what we need. Do we need more situational stuff, or we just need to lay the ball down and play a little bit? But I do know it'll be great for the community to come out and see what our team's about, watch us run around, and hopefully as we're building our program, they can see the foundation that we're laying. It'd be a good time for them to come see what foundation we're laying with our program.
How much have you enjoyed getting around to other sports since you've been here? Basketball games, hockey, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I enjoy watching sports, period, no matter what they are. I've been to men's basketball and women's basketball. Hockey, hockey run my winning streak, so a little disappointed in them because we were 2-0 with the basketball. But it's awesome. I can't wait to go watch some softball and everything else. I think it's important, one, just to support each other. I think it's important for your team to support other players, student athletes on campus. But I enjoy being around and being a part of the university. And any time that we've got teams that play at a high level. I went over to the track the other day and saw some track stuff going on. So I enjoy being around and watching and being part of the university community. I think part of that's it's easy to sit in your office all day and say you got stuff to do, but if I can go enjoy some game, I think it's good.
The players have had a chance that are on campus have had a chance to work out with your strength staff here the last few weeks. What have been the early returns that you've heard from the strength staff as far as culture building and buy-in, that sort of thing?
I think it's been good. You ask your players, hey, how's it going in the weight room? Oh, it's getting great. We're getting stronger, and then when we turn up the volume on them a little bit, we'll see what they say as we continue to turn it up. But I think one thing they've found in the short amount of time is that we're going to work. We're going to be consistent in who we are and what we do, and we're going to hold them to a standard. And it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a starter or you're not, you're going to be held to that same standard. And they're seeing that through our discipline. And we're going through a core value system. Last week was competition, learning how to compete. This week is discipline. We're going through that. We're doing devotions about what those core value means biblically. So we're going through all those things as we lay our foundation of what we're going to be about. And if we can get buy-in to each other and buy into the values system through our strength program, and then that's where your foundation's built, and through our CPR and all the different things we're doing. And so I think so far so good. It's great now because there's no depth chart, right? And there's not tons of adversity. So everybody thinks they got a shot, right? And so once the adversity goes up, and then once the accountability, you have to live to that standard consistently, and then the plan starts. Then you got to see who's really bought in and who's not. That'll start happening through spring a little bit, and then once you get in the summer and through the fall. So it's really going to determine. Right now, everybody seems to be heading in the right direction, but I've done it long enough to know also some people are just putting up a front to see what they're going to get out of it first. And so I got to identify who they are and hopefully, continue to build relationships with them and earn their trust so I can earn their trust and they understand why we're doing what we're doing. But we're off to a good start, with recruiting. The day that we close, honestly, with the ones we signed yesterday, we had going into that morning, we only had one of those. And we got all the rest of them late that night or early that morning. You know, it was a toss-up, but we worked hard, and so to get that was big, and I gave all the coaches a big jolt of energy, you know, and so going in here to the weekend. So it was because you never know when you're late on things, it's hard. You just don't want to take guys, and I thought our guys did a fantastic job.
When you mentioned the areas for accountability and obviously turning up the pressure and really testing where guys are in terms of their buy-in, do you like, even if it's fluid, having something like a depth chart at different points in the spring just to give guys an understanding of where they are and see how they'll respond, or do you have other ways you go about doing that?
Well, I don't know what anybody can do personally, so I'm not. I told them in my first meeting, I said, I don't care what you did behind, we're all moving forward. So the past is the past, whether you're a starter or whether you're not. So we're going to judge you based off what you're doing forward. And so for me, guys that are doing right, then I like those guys. The ones that aren't, hey, you got to pick this up if you're going to be part of what we're doing. And so that's part of that accountability piece. And part of the things that we're doing, you know, we're in competition with each team. We have 8 teams that are competing right now, 10 teams that are competing right now for over various things. And so you're learning how they compete during some of those things and who can you count on, maybe who you can't. Eventually we'll figure out sort of what a 1 and 2 is once we really get to see them run around and do some more things. Right now you can see them in the weight room and you can watch them for a few minutes, but you can see somebody that's pushing themselves or somebody that's not. You can ID that, but we'll continue to find out who we can count on and trust as we continue to build through this.
First time we had a chance to speak to you since you completed your coaching staff for the on-field. How the guys meshed a good bit following you from Coastal, Charleston Southern, and then you retained two guys and then bring in some outsiders.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously the ones that I'm familiar with that work with me, you know, the transition from that standpoint has been pretty good. You're just trying to figure out how the university operates, right? That's the deal. Hey, can we do this? Can't do this. We're still working through that. You know, obviously with the staff that we retained, you know, I spent a time with them in, you know, December just getting here. Of course, they're trying to fill me out. I'm trying to fill them out. So now that we're all here and they're learning how we do things, you know, that's maybe different than what they did. Not maybe better, just maybe different in how they did things. So we're growing and learning each other there. But the ones that I'd worked with prior to or previously, obviously there's consistency, there's continuity. So anything that I'm saying, you know, it's not surprising them. Our CPR, all the values and all that, they know, right? So we're, from that standpoint, from a flow, has been pretty good. And then I think what's helped defensively, even though I brought one guy, but I brought some analysts. Everybody else is sort of new, for at least to me, defensively, because of the defensive line coach being an analyst. They know when I'm saying things, they know the expectations, what we're trying to do, and so they can help with the new guys to transition that. So, so far so good. You know, now once we get into our conditioning program and some of the different things there, you know, then they're going to learn how I want to do things. We'll talk through it, but then there's another step we have to go through. And recruiting was a new step for the guys when we were out on the road in January and how we do things. And so we're learning, they're learning, and once we're through, you know, this spring, then they'll know, hey, this is how we expect to do things, and that should help our transition into the summer and into the fall.
I haven't had a chance to ask you about the schedule since that came out. 5 straight midweeks. Have you thought much about how that transition is going to look going out of Saturdays and into midweeks and those things?
Yeah, it's unique. You know, the great thing about that is you're on TV, right? So, I mean, you get an opportunity to be on TV, and you get a chance to really get your program, have hopefully some national recognition if you can win. And so in 2021, 6 out of the 12 games we played were non-Saturdays. And so something that we've had some experience with, and I think one of them's a Thursday, Tuesday. Never had experience with that one, but it'll be an adjustment, especially, you know, for our team. You know, the hard part I think is what you want with your team and your program. You want to try to get in a routine and a rhythm. Hey, they know this is what we do. This is what we do. When you play those midweeks, sometimes it throws it out, and so we'll adjust to it. But for having us a chance to, you know, get on some television and some national, I think is big. And if you have to play in Russia to do that, then we'll play in Russia to do that.